Okay, so in this test, I just want to read it aloud. Case 4, your challenge is to design a solution to track the progress, to track the process and transition of a candidate to Tesla employee. Recruiters and managers should be able to see where a candidate is in the interview process, offer process, immigration, and finally onboarding. Think of the information architecture and opportunities to see detailed views. Your thought process, what led you to the conclusion, any sketches, wireframes, information architecture. We're not expecting the most polished solution in the amount of time, but we do want to see how you operate within limited requirements. So my thought process right away is I want to use large visual indicators to indicate linear progress. Simple linear progress displayed with easy to return nonlinear to retrieve info, edit, and update. So what that means is progress bars. My initial thought was to research progress bars like Etsy, when I ordered an item, when it's shipped, when it's delivered. And I went into like food applications, like order accepted, making food out for delivery, delivered. And then I got into Amazon, where it's displaying, when a shipment's created and in transit, checked in, received, closed. So these linear steppers are great ways to indicate progress. So that led me into another idea of, well, let's see how Amazon did as far as how they have their application process. And they have an existing application dashboard, which is pretty much a tabbed unit between active applications and archived. And this is kind of what started getting me back into the visual indicator method and identifying mobile first. So things I had here also were the ability to insert steps between milestones if needed, the ability to have most flexibility in the UI. So at a glance, I can still see the progress of where I am in the process. I feel the easiest way to track linear process is with the time indicator bar. So this is why I researched food apps and other econ applications to understand step-by-step wizards, both linear forced forward to completion and nonlinear, so I can go back with more flexibility. What the question currently doesn't ask, which is in the process of what I'm trying to understand now, is do I need a UI for the recruiter or manager to input a value when the candidate has successfully completed the task? Meaning that if I already went through the screener step, would I need to have a way for the recruiter or the manager to indicate that I've successfully completed that? Is this being done elsewhere, or do I need to add a state for success or fail for that? In addition, do I want the application to have all the candidates' information inside it with notes and paperwork, like a holistic, singular application experience, or is it much more larger than that? And so that's what started getting me into really starting to consider game UI. This is a game, Hearthstone, but the level of information that they can combine into a mobile user interface is outstanding for categorical structure. So if you look on this application, it's got several tabbed units here, and then another tier of choices, followed by another tier of choices, and then a back button. So I can dig myself out of potentially 3 or greater truncated UI here, but it gives a really great way of putting information, separating large amounts of group data that needs to be easily explained. And then I really liked this linear map of how it shows 21, 22, 23, 24. So it shows ways of how you're progressing forward. So I really drew inspiration from these types of linear steppers and these progress indicators through like food applications and Etsy and ecom. And so that leads me to the wireframe and IA part of the assignment. Here, interview process, offer process, immigration, and onboarding were the things that were labeled in the question. But I just assumed that those were like the parent categories, and within each parent category, there was probably a series of child sections. So I just went ahead and made up some that I thought would be relevant. So inside interview process, you'd have screener, test, 45-minute review, evaluation, and then potentially an additional interview. And once those 5 steps were completed, you would move to the offer process step, the immigration step, and the onboarding step. And then I just went ahead and threw in some additional children's steps within this parent offer process step. Same with immigration. So in this environment, I've got 4 steps that have little tasks within them. And that's kind of how I've drawn the conclusion in this gaming UI, similar treatment, where I've got a parent category followed by several miniature tasks within that. So then going down here, these are just notes that I came up with through the IA process here. So I want to show the minimal amount of info at a glance. In this mobile application for tracking candidates, I want you to be able to look at it at a glance and know exactly where the candidate is. And if you'd like to drill down into more granular information, you can. And if you'd like to add additional details within that granularity, you also can. I wanted to include some kind of gamify or gamification type element. I just think that's a really great way to help teach and show forward progression. I also want to display it like a video game. I thought, make it fun instead of just a boring, truncated folder with a bunch of little things in it. And then think mobile first, always. So managers aren't confined to a desktop environment. I do want to make this so that it's a very mobile, friendly application. And then, create it like an app. These are just kind of like more coach marks for me to just make sure I stay aligned with principles that I want, in the build. So then moving down here, I've got some chicken scratch. This is really just rough wireframing out ideas, but at the top, I'd have a search tool with the candidate name and probably an image that I can drag from LinkedIn or from another place. That just gives it a little bit of personalization when you're in the application for the first time. And then I haven't really settled on this yet, but these are 5 or 4. These are the 4 groups. And then a 0 of 5, which would indicate progress. So at least you could go through the entire list in a mobile format and see that. And then the tools section at the bottom is really just geared towards icons that I'm going to throw in here. Things like the home button, maybe like a map to show progress. I haven't really gotten that far yet in this so far. But this is just showing so if I was at interview and I clicked the button, it would drill down into the 5 steps that was described in the IA section. And then if I clicked on individual sections within that, it would take me to the granular information, like showing the screener, potentially showing notes if I wanted to add additional comments from the screener, and then a check and an X. So this is like check. If I hit the check, then it'll show this bar filled up, maybe like in green or something, or some kind of visual indicator that displays that it had successfully been completed. And all right, morning 2. Didn't realize that in the first video, my photo was covering up this small piece. So what I was getting at here is that when you click on screener, it would bring up an additional page that would allow, or screen that would allow you to add some notes and potentially validate if the candidate has completed the screener. So that was what that was right there. But moving into day 2 information. So I kept sketching out. This is basically an intro screen with the Tesla emblem and stuff on it. But this has the candidate personalization information with like an avatar image, and then a categorical structure showing these 4 parent things from the question: interview process, offer process, immigration, onboarding. And then here's the navigation elements at the bottom. And so I thought I could click on one of these elements that would then take me into interview process with the series of tasks. And since then, I've moved the check mark that can be grayed, they'll all be gray out at the beginning. And then if the student has completed the screener, it would have a green check that would be manually inputted by the recruiter or the manager. That's my assumption. I'm making this assumption right now because I assume that when the screener is completed or the test is completed, somebody has to enter that information. I don't expect it to be dynamic, meaning that it automatically is given the check mark based on a circumstance. So all gray checks and then green for being successful. And then this is the screener image. I'm sorry, this is the screener note section. So I added a little note icon here that I think, maybe people want to leave notes throughout the process. I figure there's multiple hands that are touching this interview process, offer process, immigration onboarding. Even though Preeti was my handler for the screener, I have a feeling there will be multiple people involved. So maybe she wants to leave some notes here for the screener, and maybe others would like to do that. So I feel like there needs to be a note section for each one of these elements for further details if necessary in a mobile environment. And then this is me chicken scratching out potentially a sort methodology for other candidates. So how do I access and visit additional candidates outside of this search tool at the top? So this is me brainstorming on a way to display lists of candidates, whether it's sorting from A to Z, Z to A, newest, last updated, which department they're in, that kind of thing. So this is work in progress for probably day 3. But I want to get into the good stuff. So started doing some research. Bear with me in mind, it's a little out of order, but I started looking at some of the Tesla apps that are out. And I wanted to look close to the typography and the use of iconography. So as I'm looking at these apps for the Model S and others, it dawned on me that I was starting to go down this app path of box images and images on the side. So this would display our parent categories. And then as I click on this, it would take me into this box view environment. And while I thought this was kind of the right vibe, I immediately went back to what Tesla branding already is doing with the iconography left justified and the typography here. And then the arrow indicators for second tier. And that information just immediately resonated with me. And I'm like, I'm going down the wrong path here. This isn't what I want to do. So I merged down to this last night. So this is back where I was showing you the wireframe, and here's the cover home. I figured all you need is really a search bar. You're going to search for the candidate that you're interested in immediately. But if you're not, you're probably going to click this list icon, which I haven't built out yet. I can explain this stuff pretty fast. So notification, I thought, might be contextual based on the candidate you're in. Maybe you can send them a reminder, something like that. I haven't thought that all the way through yet. Progress is just displaying this view. This home indicator, I think, is incorrect right now, but progress is just displaying candidate progress. Home is the screen. List is what we described before. Just a different way of finding different candidates based on sort mechanics. And then settings, this is kind of like placeholder-ish for now, just because I don't have a 5th category, but I have a feeling there might be some settings related stuff for this application. So it's kind of a catch-all for the time being. But then, as you can see, up here in this example, See how they have the current apps have this iconography and then words here. So I wanted to use a similar branding aesthetic to keep the brand in check. And so you come here and then let's say you type in my name, and I've hotspotted the majority of this up already so that it's a working prototype as I work along. It just helps me with click states and reduces redundancies and things like that. So I type in my name, and then here comes my candidate profile. I've got some personalization profile information here at the top, my mugshot, location information, the role I'm applying for, my name. And this is like as if a manager is looking at, where am I at? And then this 10% is just something that's really like, hey, how far along is he in the process? He's 10% complete. And the reason I got that is if you notice on these step levels, these are the 4 categories from the question. And then below here, it says 2 of 5 completed, 0 of 5, 0 of 4, 0 of 5. So this totals up to 19 tasks, and 2 of those 19 tasks comes out to about 10%. And so then these icons here, I'm just trying to establish a relatable language that is similar to the Tesla references. And so as you can see, when I click on interview process, it now shows this icon here at the top with a title header. And ignore the colors for now. This just kind of trying to work through this as fast as I can. So for now, color aesthetics, it's irrelevant for me. But anyway, this shows the parent interview process from this screen here, and then shows all the tasks inside interview process. So interview screener has been completed, UX UI test, which I'm currently in. For argument's sake, it's been completed. And then remember, I had a note icon in the wireframes, in the sketches. And so that's what takes me over to this screen. If I have a little notification, a little red dot, and that's just a visual indicator saying that there's some kind of value inside here. So maybe another user wants to click on it, or maybe there's other recruiting people that are interested in what Preethi happened to say. So in here, I click the note icon. It takes me into this screen, shows a back button that allows me to get back to the interview process screen, and then a note section where I can tap the area, type in a note, that kind of thing. And then actually, as we're talking through this, I don't even think an add note button is necessary. That might be a redundancy moving forward, just because after I type in the note and I hit the arrow to add it, it would add it to the list, but it wouldn't. I wouldn't need to add a note. So that could be an error on my end, which is why we're talking through this. But anyway, this shows an avatar image of the recruiter, and then the comment she made, and this will work as like a vertical scrollable acting chat at this particular step for the recruitment process. Again, this is something I'm just adding in there. I feel like it's necessary. I guess I won't know until we actually really test out the UI if it's worthwhile or not, or if I just care about this task completion step process and that's all I care about. But I feel like the notes at every step of the way throughout this is important, and could be a good export quality to have in some kind of organized PDF for full evaluations of candidates in the future. I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting. And so this is just displaying the second offer process. So here, if I'm in offer process, I click that because there's an arrow that indicates there's another tier. This is what would display. And the offer process icon is associative with offer process. And we follow the same suit here. And there happens to be 5 here, but if there's 10 or 15 tasks here, you could just vertically scroll with your thumb through this area. And then same thing, a note section on each of the tiers, a gray check mark that would convert to a green check mark when manually pressed to validate. And then the completed would change from one of 5 when validated. And then this percentage complete would also dynamically update based on when these check marks have been completed. So in a way, this is kind of a linear flow prototype for the candidate tracker, where at the parent level, at a glance, we'll be able to see a percentage right away of where this candidate is. And then if we want to, we can drill down into each individual section and really get the juicy details, where they're at in the completion steps. And then if we really want the real juicy details, we can click on notes and it'll have information associated with that. Now, I didn't get to talk about it too much here either, but in this area, there could be opportunity for value where we could have a camera option, which would allow you to screenshot documentation that could be added here. We could have a browse or add file. There could be some paperwork or something that wants to be added, and any of that stuff could be added at any of these tiers. We could add that functionality at this level. I just didn't want to get too far in the weeds with this kind of thing, but just want to provide as much texture to this application. I'm going to work through some of the other steps involved in this, and I'll get back with you. All right, so let's get back into it. So as you can tell, there's been a lot of differences that have happened here. I'm turning on the hotspot option here. I'm a big fan of hotspot over using the InVision one just because I like keeping everything in Sketch. I'm just kind of old that way. But you'll see all these yellow areas as call to action click states. And you'll notice some significant changes throughout the application here. So back at this screen, originally we had notify, progress, home, list, and settings. I've now changed the notify to news. I changed the progress section to favorites, and I'll tell you why. I've kept home the same, list is the same, and settings is the same. So here's the scoop about this stuff. So the news section, I thought there could be some good curated content around recruiting and management as it relates to hiring. And I thought maybe having curated content about the Gigafactory, or maybe product designers for in-console vehicles, Tesla roofs, machine type stuff. I thought there might be some applicable, worthwhile stuff having it there. So that's what I have there. As we're now looking at the list view, so the list screen is really where you're going to fine tune and figure out which clients you want to get interactive with. So the repeating search bar at the top, this is repeating search elements that exist on the Tesla website now. And so I wanted to reuse existing components, existing backend stuff. I thought, Elon's big about having components, reusability, sustainability. And so I figured maybe we could do reusability in this section here as it relates to digital. Let's reuse. So job category, region, location, state. These are all filter mechanics that exist on the website today for the careers area. And then I added some sort mechanics like alpha A to Z, new, recently updated, and completed. These are just different ways to sort the list. I thought that would be applicable because there's got to be thousands of potential candidates for this type of environment. So here's just my notes over here. Like these are the search filters, and I'm debating on whether having a title header in these pages or not, because the navigation still kind of acts as a title element. So I've let go of titles because I think it's a waste of space for vertical environments. And since there's some pretty heavy scrolling that's happening within this application that I've created, I'd rather have the vertical space back. So sort mechanics, there's a note there, and then reuse components from library, reuse the search backend that's currently exists on careers page. Elon's all about sustainability, so why not reuse digital experience? And then I was debating about having progress at this level. I decided to keep it clean and allow the recruiter to have to drill into the individual candidate in order to see progress information. So this screen is strictly just a list screen. Allows me to search with the finite at the top with the bar, or drill down into these specific categories that probably has backend metadata that can then be mapped and organized that way. And then some filters here. So, and then this is just my play on some people. Just I needed to have something in there. And then this is showing a completed badge. This means that this Peter Parker digital modeler has completed the entire candidate process, and likely Peter was hired. So we've already gone through this page. There's been some adjustments. As you remember, there was a notification icon in the lower right left corner, and I've now moved it to the task level. What this notification does, and it's actually present right here, this notification, there's a red dot and a blue dot, and I've annotated some rule sets over here. So the red dot means that a notification was sent. The blue dot means that an email or response from the candidate has been sent. So what that means is if at any time a recruiter or manager would like to notify me, since I'm the client, of the interview screener or of the test or the 45-minute review or anything, you just hit the notify button, sends an auto-generated message over to me, and that just allows you to have an indicator there that says, hey, you sent me a notification about a particular task you want me to accomplish. Just thought that could be a really cool feature. The blue dot is when I send a message to you. So if I responded back, it just allows you to know that you have received a message. Now, these are tied to email functionality, like not within the application. So you wouldn't be able to see my response, at least in the version I've created. You wouldn't see my response in this. But if it was sent, you would know that I had received the information that you sent and sent you back information. So I just thought having a contextual notification icon at the task level within this milestone of interview process would be a pretty handy thing to have. So that's that kind of functionality. I moved the notification thing out of this left corner and into a contextual space at the task level. So then moving over here to favorites. So this list over here, I think, can get extremely comprehensive very fast. And depending on who is accessing the UI, we want to make sure that that person has some kind of personalization. So if I'm a recruiter and I have, these types of individuals that are part of my list or something like that, I want to be able to separate that list. And so if you notice over here under offer process, see how I have a star icon here next to the candidate name? So there's a star right here. So this star functionality just allows you to favorite that particular candidate. So we could go all the way back here. You could type in the search bar here the candidate name. That person could come up. You could hit the star, and then now it's saved in the favorites section, which is right here. So this is just displaying the favorites. These are people that probably are in my queue, people that I'm interested in interviewing, people that are going through the process, but I definitely want to separate these people out outside of the just going through a sorted list, that kind of thing. And as you can see, it's got favorite stars next to it. I can depress the star. They would disappear from the list. And then here was a note, like I'm debating on a title header here or not. I don't think I need title headers. I think it's just extra clutter. So I'm not going to include them, at least in this build, until we discuss. And then here I have settings. So settings is kind of a catch-all for notifications, really. Like, do you want to have notifications sent to you when a candidate completes a task, when they complete a milestone, if there's a new news article, when a new note is added by another recruiting person or manager? I just think that those are things that might be key elements that will help improve the experience for the recruiter and the manager. But that's just kind of where I field that information from. And so then, I just have some notes here. I had a couple of ideas. I thought maybe that this news section could be a map. I could display a map feature where it could show geolocation information of candidates based on the different locations that Tesla has, like Fremont and Hawthorne, Giga Berlin, that kind of thing. Or it could have been a metrics thing that may track metrics of sorts. It could be an explore or a browse subsection, but ultimately I settled on news because I thought, maybe people want to access, the current information. And this could also potentially be an upsell for Tesla where it encourages recruiting and management to hire product designers or Gigafactory personnel. And that could be incentivized, could be a gamification kind of thing. So anyway, I just left that alone. I'm going to turn off the hotspot plugin or the hotspot view, and I'll zoom out. And so this is the, oh, you know what? I missed this one too. So the happy path, there's a chance that, when I'm down here at the candidate screen and I've completed all these, the candidate's completed, well, what does it look like? And so I just added a completed badge, and you can see that 5 of 5 have been completed. And that's what it's showing here, 5 of 5 completed. And so this is just basically displaying the candidate in the completed steps and what that would look like. I thought that would be, you might want to know what that looks like when the candidate has successfully completed. Now, things just come to mind, like I don't know how to delete a candidate within my app. I haven't really gone through that, or if there's incomplete areas or anything like that. But overall, here is the application. So now we're going to just do a walkthrough. I made a dirty prototype using hotspots, and I'll also show you what it looks like on a device. One more thing to mention is I did do some more exploratory research when coming up with these solutions, and tried to start looking more at how Tesla does console interfaces and more of their app stuff where they have rounded buttons, some gradient kind of thing going on. I get that these are real simple car interfaces, but overall, I just want to try and stay as close I can to some of the aesthetically pleasing Tesla stuff. So here is my test, and I will supply all the work that has been accomplished. But first, let's go through a click through of the prototype, and that's next. So anyway, let's get into the prototype. So let's see if it hit preview. Yep. So the screen comes up. Let's see if I can. Don't mind my background here. It's pretty cool. All right. So I hit preview, and I kind of come in here. So the happy path is I type in my name, and then, oh wow, look, there's a candidate me. I come up. I'm just hitting this so you can see the hotspot areas of what can be clicked. So I'm interested in seeing the progress of the interview process for this candidate, who's me. And so then I'm coming into here, and I can see at first glance that 2 of 5 steps have been completed. Overall, 10% has been completed. And which 2 have been completed? This says 2 green check marks, so I'd assume it's these 2. And then I noticed that there's a note here. So let's check out the note. And then, yep, I can type in a note if I wanted to here. And there's a note here. And Preeti left that. Oh, great. Thanks. It's cool. There's a note in here. This would allow me to obviously add a note if I wanted to, or if I want to add a file, or if I want to take a screen grab. This is also displaying that if I wanted to add a file, I could, and this is how, this is representing a file that was added. So that's kind of that part of the sequence. So then let's go to list. Okay, so now I'm in the experience, and it's showing a list. This is the list of people I can choose from. I can filter by these same categories that the current site has for careers. And then I can sort this information for recently updated, completed, new, or A to Z, Z to A, that kind of thing. And so that's what this list will help define. So then maybe Peter Parker is, my favorite. So now I'm here in my favorite list. And I helped describe that beforehand. But as you can see on a mobile device, it looks pretty slick. It allows me to vertically scroll pretty fast. And yeah, so then let's check out the news section. So now I'm in the news section. And so it's just displaying articles I could get into, and I could dig in a little deeper if I want to. And then settings. So these are settings that I already went through with you before, just describing what types of things I'd want turned on or off in order for the application to become more intuitive, personalized for myself. And then home. So, yep, back here again. This is the home screen. And then on a validation, this is just if you look over here, there's a window that's nothing. But this will help display the happy path completed. So just for quick and dirty purposes, this really at least allows me to identify my IA skills for presentation, how I'm going to navigate this particular mobile app, and then how the functionality is going to work also. So hopefully this has helped you moving forward. I did want to say that I do have a device, and I didn't realize I have an iPhone 12 Pro. So the screen size is unfortunately a little too small, but at least it helps for haptics and touch areas, and it helps me identify if the areas are too small. But overall, I definitely could, even with this screen smaller, I could touch the areas and cycle through them. So this is just another layer of granularity that I can use to help pinpoint the build. Hopefully everything made sense, and thank you for your time.